introduce themselves to us. Oh, you know who that is? Greg Revac. How are you?
Good to see you, Wally. Good to see you, Dominic. Good to see you, Tom.
Hey, how are you?
Doing well. Work day, so just throwing on in the background. But always good to hear from the Sharks.
Yeah. Well, there's a number of things going on up here that are related to hockey operations relative to managing a team with numbers being too low. And Dominic's case, he's faced with that with his girls and boys teams. Tom has had problems with not enough kids coming out to practice and having to adapt. And so that's been some of the discussion. But Craig, I did want to mention I'm really enjoying your site. I paid for the subscription, and I haven't really delved into it, but it's all good stuff. Your languaging is really interesting. It's different. It's just that my old school thinking, I've thought of those things before, but never expressed them. Everything that you're talking about, I believe, has been in my mind and what I'm trying to do, but it's really well done. And your videos are tremendous. Now, are you getting those from Daryl?
No, I have a trusty iPhone, so you just screen record and then turn it into GIFs or GIFs or however you pronounce it, and then I just copy and paste those into the article itself.
Oh, it's really neat for anybody else that's listening. I've passed on a number to the Sharks. I don't know if any of them have registered in it, but I haven't really joined the coaches site yet. I'm sort of trying to weigh the value of what I'm actually going to use.
You should see if they are willing to give you one for free. I feel like they're not against that, especially if you've been on like with Mike Benelli before on his stuff and been a contributor.
Well, I'll double check on that because they've got some good speakers and really good presentations. It's nice to access them, but I just find how much that's out there while you're in season can you apply? How many coaches can invest their time and energy if they're not full time to do things differently or experiment? Dom, can you comment on that? Like, do you get some ideas and say, well, gee, I can try this, I can try that? Or are you like typical coaches, or we're just too busy and locked into what we are familiar with? And I'm just not sure when actually you can take the time to apply and test new information. And I'll tell you, Jordan Fenton, who was on earlier, he has tested everything Daryl has done, and he's found unbelievable success with surfing and discouraging the passes and preventing them from gaining the opposition from gaining the lines. But talk about you. Changed anything and tried something different that's worked for you, or
Sounds like Dominic might be getting some morning announcements here. All right, so I'll step in on Dominic while he probably wades through some riveting information here. But first, wanted to say, Wally, glad that you're finding the Hockey IQ podcast and newsletter helpful and interesting. These are all like items that I wanted to talk about, but couldn't find. Half the time it's like cliche stuff like 3 drills you should try at your next practice or 3 things for angling, or I just didn't find it very impactful for the concepts that I know people are having conversations around, but being able to have them on a more mass scale. Like I will talk with a player about something like, yeah, I'm going to send you one of my pieces. And then boom, we're having a much more in-depth conversation. They're talking about things they like. They're saying like, yeah, I'm not sure I can put this in my game or whatever. So like that's been super powerful and impactful. And then also like a time leverage. Like I don't have to have the same conversation 5 times. I had it once. Now I just send it out. So I think that's been really cool and helpful. And I know a lot of coaches have done that as well, where it's almost like a homework assignment they just give out to their team and then have a conversation at the next chalk talk to go over it and details and elements that they want to add into the game, all of that. So it's been helpful for me, helpful for others. I'm glad people are willing to pay for it. It's kind of like Wikipedia. Like I'll put out a thing or two to support the supporters, but for the most part, I try to keep it free and access to the masses for those that are curious and want to learn more.
You know, it's
I
interesting.
tried something different the other day, Wally.
Yeah.
Like just before practice, Jim had a big court case on this is Monday, right?
Yeah.
So he said he couldn't come to practice, and Cassie was on Monday Night Hockey. So I got one of the parents coming to the ice, but we finally, those players got back from vacation. So we had all 15 skaters. So we've gone to 3 sets of 5. So I put them all in different colors. And I wanted to walk them through the forecheck. So I know that if I leave people in the neutral zone, the other ones, they don't watch when they're not doing it. So I put 3 left wingers, 3 right wingers, 3 center, like every position. And every one of them, all 3 went to, the parent would be in the corner with a puck, and all 3 went there. And then the goalie, he passed to the goalie, and then the rotation.
Yeah.
And we went through everything there, and it worked out pretty good. It was just
So you did the D zone or forecheck walkthrough or the D zone walkthrough?
forecheck.
Forecheck. Okay.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with a pinch on a wide rim.
Yeah. Greg, for just for your information, over the years, everything I've ever done, Hockey in Canada's ever done, was related to play without the puck. And the reason for that was the back in the time when we hosted the Olympics in '88, Dave King and a number of pioneers of coaching in coach education, they focused on teaching, coaching, and development in a way that's beyond imagination back in the day. And one of the things we had to do, because we played the Soviets and they had the puck all the time and they were doing everything that you can imagine offensively. I'm not sure they're doing everything that you're talking about today and in that fashion, but my God, we focus on defense to the point of being anal. So it was 2 years ago, I watched the national under-18 female team practice, and I watched them play a game, and everything they did in practice with Howie Draper, who is a guru of defensive play because his former coach was one of the pioneers who designed D-zone cover. And our ladies team beat the U.S. yesterday 3-1, and the shots were like 30-9, and it was like, this doesn't happen. And the reason was they focused on offense, and the players are starting to wheel and move and interchange a little bit more. And I'm just finding that the mindset of how to coach, it's all offense. Now, I want to know, Dom, I don't know if you watch World Juniors or not, Craig, World Juniors, but Team Canada had an incredible amount of high draft picks. They couldn't play without the puck. They were lucky to win. And I mean that from a theoretical point of view, not a poker point of view. They were very good offensively, but they played 50-50 hockey for all the risks they took. And in their zone in the first game that they lost against the Czechs, they had no idea. There was so much space, and they really couldn't maintain D side, let alone shrink the pressure area. So everything you're doing, Greg, to me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's all offensive focused. And I watched the Leafs play last night. They won a 2-1 game. And that to me, if you can win 2-1 games with an offensive approach of their talent, they're on the right track.
Well,
But
their
we,
offense also feeds into their defense, and this is a big concept in soccer, and I don't think it's made the jump all the way to hockey quite yet, but kind of the idea of like having structure in possession. So even if you do have a turnover, you're immediately going to be able to pressure it or have numbers behind the puck.
yeah,
I mean, that's massive over the last 10 years in soccer and how they've like structure. So they talk about like phases of the game and how do they build and how do they structure in the different phases of the game, whether it be in the defensive third, the midfield third, or the attacking third. So
Yeah.
similar to hockey, like how do we structure ourselves when we're in or out of possession? A lot of it has been possess the ball, but how do we possess the ball and have people in the right spots? So if there is a turnover, we're insulated.
Now that's an exact example, Greg, of, to me, it's automatic. Transition is the game. When you don't have the ball, you had better be close enough to pressure it to lead to a turnover. And on the converse, and I'm talking soccer because I watched all the World Soccer games. I have a granddaughter that's playing. And offensively, they were able to possess the ball because they touch passed so much that you couldn't react quickly enough to get possession back. So, from that point of view, and the possession point of view, the structure is important. Like when we say claw forecheck or we say man on box behind, but you're playing within that framework and making decisions quickly without the puck or soccer ball or with it. And the essence of the game is the quick thinking that goes on between the players together to take advantage of the situation. So I really enjoy watching the Leafs, and having been at their camp and watched the superstars work by themselves, and then the American League guys run their practices. They're really using that offense first module, and that it is about possession. The concept of possession changes. 5-on-5, according to Dale, makes absolute sense. And I believe at any age, the most important thing you can do with U13s or Dom with your team is a 3-on-3 possession change only scrimmage. Because that to me is the essence of taking possession to the degree that we haven't been able to before. Because we've been reared on dump and chase. Dom, when you played minor hockey, were you taught to dump and chase?
Yeah. I mean, I think a little bit of a. I mean, my dad knew nothing about hockey. I mean, you've talked to him quite a bit. He came from Italy, knew nothing about hockey, and was, George Kingston and Dave King, and as far as, the fundamentals and that. So I don't know that we were ever really taught to dump and chase per se. Like there was more of the individual skill based. And so, and I as I say, it was a little bit different because I do think there was such an emphasis on the individual skills. So the kids we ended up doing pretty well, but because we were pretty skilled. But as you start going through it, then it starts major, junior, and pro, and then it starts getting more. It started getting a lot more structured, and now it was a lot of the don'ts of the game. Don't turn the puck over, get the puck in, and so obviously it's changed. With us, our focus would in the minors coaching and even through the big club as well, their focus as well. But I do see we do play a lot on the girls and the guys side. You play against a lot of teams that, I mean, you can just hear it, get it out, get it in, get it out, get it in. And it's, yeah, I mean, it's limiting, right? Limiting in what you're enabling kids to do.
Greg, is that mindset of get it out, get it in? Have you had to overcome that?
I feel like it's just a panic. Like a lot of people in today's game, a lot of players in today's game are taught to have contact later. Like the sport, they've pushed back checking for so long, and they call it so tightly that a lot of kids are uncomfortable with contact. So anytime there's some contact or getting used to contact for the first time, especially within like any kind of puck protection, they often will panic and throw it away. So I think it's less on the teaching of dumping and chasing, and it's more around the ability to be comfortable within and around contact without having to like, oh, I'm taking contact, I need to get rid of this. So rather than pass our problems, puck protect and find a better solution, is where I'm going with it.
I'm not sure I understand it. My mindset is, and it relates to, you've heard the saying, and Dom, you might have to correct me on this, but the best defense wins or the best offense wins, and there's that balance. And to me, it is the tipping point, and whichever team wins the Stanley Cup is sort of the measurement stick that other coaches will follow. It'll trickle down. I totally understand the change in the game and the offensive capacity to take it to a level that we haven't played before. So I like that way that we're going. But when I watched the World Juniors and we still won, and I'm going to watch the Stanley Cup really closely in the next few years of my lifetime to see, is it going to be a balance of both? And is the offense going to dominate? And, I grew up being a Toronto fan, and now having contact with Daryl, I'm really looking forward to his experiment with working with that and how the ripple effect goes, because the players that he works with lead on those teams. And they're what they did last night with that win, and I listened to the sportscast, the Tessa Bonhomme was on the sportscast last night, and they talked about the Leafs 2-1 victory. So I'm, this is new stuff for me. Possession, and Tom Malloy, he keeps tracks of completed passes during the game, which I think is really a vital statistic, because I just watched the Circle K tournament here with the best AAA kids in Western Canada and the United States. Some kids came in, I don't know whether they're the best or not, but I didn't see any passing. I saw the Stars, number 1 draft pick, 15 years old, in the Medicine Hat prep school, which is owned by Willie Desjardins and the Medicine Hat Tigers, who drafted him number 1. And the amount of passing, they don't pass. They don't use each other. So you're smiling there, Craig, and I'm wondering if that, like, you could comment on that. Like, to me, I watched the game night before last with Kerry Bracco, Dom. We watched the AAA team lose to the crosstown rivals, and I talked about Don Phelps. I picked him up and took him. He said, "Is it me or there's no passing?" And after the game, he said it's just a game of 5 one-on-ones. So, Craig, can you talk about that at all?
Yeah. I mean, I think all of us can talk to it to some extent. Like, I get a team, and half the time you've got players that I don't trust this person, or like they're just in their own world. And it's about creating like this game intelligence or just awareness and growth in them as humans, uh, to realize, oh, I need others. That helps. One of the things I always like to talk about is like a one-on-one in the NHL. It's like an 8% success rate. Okay. And maybe with the skill gaps in youth hockey, maybe you're up to like 12, 15% max.
Yeah.
And still, those are terrible odds. So you better find out another way. So all I talk about is how do we play together? How do we think about creating 2-on-1s? But it's tough. I mean, you can watch the evolution of the team that I'm coaching this year. From when they first started, it was every top player wanted to go 1-on-1, and that's all they pretty much did was go 1-on-1. And now we're starting to go through the neutral zone and isolating, actually like looking behind us. We're not just doing everything in front of us. We're actually hitting trailers. We're isolating who's going to be my help as I'm going up the ice. I think it's always funny when you first get a team or you get a talented player from youth hockey, and now they're playing with kids that are 4 years older than them. So it doesn't matter how talented they are, they're still going to have challenge at the high school level as a freshman. So it's finding ways to enlighten them to being more aware, to look around. And a lot of this comes for me with just like scanning and awareness of others. So I like to play small area games. For example, I'll play 2-on-2 below the tops of the circles and then 1-on-1 above. And the way you go from defense to offense is you have to activate that player, but you also have to fill. And at first, it's always a person passes and then they fill. Well, eventually it got to the point where we had players off the puck filling that role to allow someone to dive in, rather than having like this exact exchange between I pass, you go. So it started out with a lot of scissors and whatnot, which is great, but then it also became a switch off the puck. So it's pretty cool.
At what age are we talking here?
14 to 18. Some are 13 going on 14.
Okay.
Well, our
I gotta
last
take a call, guys.
practice,
We'll be back.
our last practice was with the other Pee Wee girls team. And the last two we've done the 3-second game. So we combine the darks and the whites. And I talked to them about, you get the puck, you take 5 hard strides, but you get your eyes up so you know who's with you. And it's the other team really liked it because they don't really do that much, that sort of thing. We've done 2 practices in a row now. Was Greg still there? How are you doing, Mike?
Hey guys, I think he dropped off for a phone call.
Okay. Mike, just give you a quick rundown of what we talked about. We started out talking about the torpedo forecheck, and a Canadian university female coach has used it and finding it's working for his team very well. He's getting more scoring opportunities. They're scoring more goals, and they're giving up the same number they did before. So that's his rationale. And he's recruiting a player that plays for Jordan, who's a big forward, that can score, but isn't a great skater. So this particular player, he's considering the red shirt, but doesn't know much about. After my conversation, he may take her because he's playing the torpedo. And
Right.
That's 4 people on attack kind of thing. And have you ever played with this torpedo concept or heard of it?
I haven't, but I've seen it implemented a number of times. I think it's one of those things that if you have the right personnel sometimes, or I guess in some cases the wrong personnel, then it's a good anytime you throw the kids into a system, is gonna at what level is this? University level? Oh, you're on mute, Molly, or Wally, you're on mute.
Yeah, University. Yeah.
Yeah, so I would think that in that case, you know, that he wants to win games and should do anything he can. The kids want to win, right? I don't know if I'd implore that at the 10U level, but you know, we've done some whack. When I was at Plymouth State, we did some crazy stuff as
Yeah.
well, just to try to get wins. So it's sometimes you gotta throw whatever you can. Kim, I was hoping you'd come on, knowing that our meeting got canceled. So all of a sudden, there's a big window of
That's-
opportunity.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah, you got a window.
Got a window. Come say hi. I know I've been a stranger. Hi, everybody.
I love your orange.
I know I matched my walls.
It's a lot of orange.
The players always ask me if orange is my favorite color because my car is orange. My tracksuit is orange. And it is actually. My life is orange. Great. It's great.
Kim, I'm just
Yes.
throwing the word at you. Torpedo. What's your thoughts? Your background, experience.
Well,
your use.
Digit used to run it at Brown.
Yeah.
So I don't know if she called it that then, but they certainly had some pretty good teams with it when she was there.
Yeah.
I know Rick Troggett likes it.
Yeah.
He's taking over a junior team here next season. So it'll be interesting to see if they run it or not. I've never run it in that way. So I haven't personally used it, but those are the people that I know have used it and they seem to have success. I know when Brown did it, this was a long time ago, it was pretty unorthodox to only have one D back there or one, player back and have all four jumping in. So, but again, they, I know one of the years they ran it, they had almost an entire 5-man unit who were all Olympians. I'm sure they could have done whatever the heck they wanted and torpedo, stand in front of our own net. I don't know, it probably would have worked. But yeah, it definitely, I wouldn't say we adjusted though. When I think about, God, this is a long time ago, how we as a team adjusted to that, I don't know that we did a lot other than just that awareness of the fourth player in, but it didn't change how we attacked. It might have slightly altered how we defended in terms of our forecheck or our D zone play.
Yeah, Wally, I just think it's so funny because we go from asking the kids and the torpedo, a swarm, whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah.
That we go from getting all our kids to say, don't all get on the puck to, hey, everyone get on the puck. And I think it's, but I listen, I think if you have the right people and the personnel and they buy in, right? If the group you're with buys into whatever system, then it's going to help them be successful because they're all understanding that maybe it's easier for the player to understand, okay, well, my only responsibility is to cover this back end and everyone else has their responsibilities. Sometimes it's a little easier to play than just, think on your own, free play type stuff.
You said it, think on your own, free play. The torpedo to me is structured to the point of removing the thinking aspect. In other words, you're two torpedoes. You're a torpedo. You're owies. There's no interchange. And so you're not necessarily as aware as you would be in an interchanging system. And theoretically, I believe the game of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hockey has not been reached yet. And that doesn't mean torpedo. It doesn't mean 1, 2, 2, 2, 1, 2. It means 1, 2, 2, 2, 1, 2. It means swarming, but you're thinking with the puck, possessing the puck, and getting the puck back. So I believe the game that is yet to happen is not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When we say the fourth player joins the attack, well, that's nothing new. That's a torpedo. You got 4 in the attacking zone. It should allow you to keep the puck in the zone. But as Tom mentioned, people find the middle of the ice. So he had to quit.
No, I just said, dude, do forecheck in an eye, not two in.
Yeah,
The original right on the eye, because otherwise he just pops it to the center and they're out. So
You
gotta have
adapt, as a coach, you adapted your structure to make it work. And my question, Kim, you've coached teams before, and you know the big thing is 1-2-2, 2-1-2. What do you do? And when I developed the female curriculum, I said it's got to be both 1-2-2 when it should be, 2-1-2 when it should be, and that was the extent of it. What did you do, Kim, when you started coaching? Let's talk forecheck.
Let's talk forecheck. I think I started at U15 AA. So I started in a 2-1-2. Strategically, for a couple of reasons. One, I had a bunch of A players I was promoting, so didn't have any kind of top end skill. And, you know, female players tend to struggle under hard puck pressure. So our strategy was to get in there hard and, you know, look to create turnovers and maybe get ugly goals like what I scored my entire career. As I moved up to coaching higher level teams and older teams and started to attract better levels of talent, I leaned more on the 1-2-2 because I like the structure when you recover the puck in the 1-2-2 a lot better in terms of transitioning to offense. I've always had question marks about the strong side pinch. It's a bit scary, again, because the girls are so literal. They'll there'll be no one covering up top. And, often you'll see three players on the hash marks and we get the puck, but like, what are you going to do now? There's six people holding hands. Like there's nowhere to go. But then, the hybrid model of a 1-2-2 that sometimes becomes a 2-1-2 that sometimes goes back. That's where I ended up. But I always liked the 1-2-2 because it forced our opponent to make actual plays to break out. Like, because we were right there, we're above the puck, we're stalking you, we're waiting. Like, what are you going to do next? So yeah, it's not, they go D to D. If you float the box across, you're fine. If you can rotate the pistons fast enough, you're fine. But I always started with a 1-2-2 my last couple years of junior, and trusted that the other team's skill and maybe team play wasn't quite at the level to break that more passive pressure. But I just like it better offensively for what it gets you once you get the little black thing back. So yeah, that's how I ended up. But I just sent you guys my playbook for U9B. So I need some help here. If you guys, this is like hot off the press. But it sure looks like a 1-2-2, your little claw there, Wally.
Yep.
Sure looks like a 1-2-2 to me. So that's getting launched tonight. Our first game's on Sunday. So think happy thoughts.
Yep. Now I've got a question here for Greg.